Warm welcome to all of you. Thanks for being here in spite of the very pleasant weather that we have today. To celebrate the launch of Shadow of the Serpent Fort, the first novel as part of the Forgotten Kingdoms of India series written by Arti Chavan. Today it's a celebration of storytelling, history, imagination, and the forgotten chapters of India's past. It is now my pleasure to invite and introduce our distinguished guests. Our chief guest today is Shanthi Priya ji. As they say, they typically start saying this person needs no introduction. So I once said that to somebody and they said, of course not, everybody needs an introduction. Don't we call Hanuman, Pavan Putra Hanuman? So everybody needs an introduction. So Shanthi Priya ji is an acclaimed actress whose career has spanned multiple Indian film industries. With memorable performances across Hindi, Telugu and Tamil cinema, she has won the admiration of audiences for decades through her grace, versatility and enduring screen presence. We are honoured to have you today for the official launch of Shadow of the Serpent Fort this evening. Welcome on stage, ma'am. We similarly have someone who needs no introduction, as they always say, Sandip Soparrkar. He is one of India's most celebrated dancers, choreographers, actors and cultural ambassadors. His remarkable career has taken Indian dance and culture to audiences across the world, and through his work as an artist and mentor, he has inspired countless performers over the years. We are delighted to welcome you this evening. Please. We had one more guest who couldn't make it because of the weather. So that's Dr. Sonali Pednekar. Unfortunately, she can't join us today, but she sent her warm regards to us. And finally, as they say, last but not the least, our author of the evening, Arti Chavan, who has spent over 2 decades building a global career in technology before turning to a lifelong dream of writing fiction. Inspired by 6 years of historical research and a passion for bringing forgotten chapters of Indian history to modern readers, Shadow of the Serpent Fort is a debut novel and a first book in the series Forgotten Kingdoms of India. Please join me in welcoming Arti Chavan.
Namaskar and a very warm welcome to all of you. Good evening everyone. First of all, thank you so much for coming in these rains. The weather is terrible, as Vipul mentioned. It is truly an honor to see family, friends, readers, historians who are supposed to be here and lovers of literature and storytelling gathered here this evening. Thank you all for making this such a special occasion. So people often ask me how long it took to write this book. The answer is 6 years. But in truth, this story has been with me since I was a child. If you ask anyone in my family, they'll tell you that I always had a book in my hand. I was a voracious reader and I inherited that love of reading from my father's side of the family. When my mother first went to my father's house after they were married, she found hundreds of books and my uncles who were always reading in every corner possible. I definitely inherited that gene. Someone once said, books don't just tell us stories, but they quietly shape the people we become. And looking back, I think that's been true throughout my life. Books shape the way I think, the way I see the world, and ultimately led me to write this book. So perhaps the better question is, how many versions did you write? And to tell you the truth, the first draft of this novel, about four and a half years back, was nearly 500 pages and 77 chapters. And the version you're seeing today is about 300 pages and 54 chapters. Somewhere along the way, I realized that writing a novel isn't really about writing, it's about rewriting, cutting, rewriting again and again. And we have a couple of authors here who would I'm sure be agree with that. So although I spent more than 2 decades writing business plans and strategy documents in the corporate world, I had never written fiction. And I quickly discovered that writing a novel needs a completely different set of muscles. That journey truly began during the COVID pandemic, and like many people, I suddenly found myself with extra time. At the time, my children had become fascinated with Greek mythology, and it made me wonder, why don't more people know equally extraordinary stories from India? I grew up listening to those stories that my father told me, and I grew up reading Marathi, Hindi, and English literature. But when I searched for books that I could introduce my children to ancient India in the same exciting, page-turning way, I struggled to find what I was looking for. I found many wonderful retellings of mythology and the characters from Ramayana and Mahabharata. But I wanted something different. I wanted an epic historical adventure filled with new, unforgettable characters, political intrigue, suspense, and a story that would keep readers turning pages late into the night. A story rooted in real history but driven by imagination. And because I've loved eerie thrillers, I added one more ingredient, a haunted fort. So Shadow of the Serpent Fort became this blend of adventure, mystery, history, and the supernatural. So in many ways, I simply wrote the book I wished my children had when they were growing up. Once I committed to that idea, I began the research. I read Arti Chavan, where Chanakya writes not only about kings and wars, but he also writes about spies, governance, economics, and human nature. I read historians like D.D. Koshambi, who encouraged us to look beyond emperors and ask how ordinary people actually lived in ancient India. I explored Greek accounts, such as Megasthenes' Indica, who wrote how India how he found India from outside over 2,000 years ago. Somewhere in the middle of that research, I fell in love with one particular year, 324 BCE, and you can see that on the title. And BC is before Common Era. They don't call BC anymore, which was before Christ, so now it's before Common Era. It was an extraordinary moment in history because Alexander the Great had just left India, but he had still left some of his Greek commanders behind, who ruled the northwestern part of the Indian subcontinent. And Chandragupta Maurya had still not built his empire. Between those two famous names must have existed dozens of small kingdoms that history never recorded. As a storyteller, I found that irresistible. The novelist E.R. Doctorow once said, "The historian will tell you what happened, but the novelist will tell you what it felt like." That quote stayed with me throughout this journey. So history tells us that Alexander Great left India and that Chandragupta Maurya's empire began to rise. But what did it feel like to live in one of those forgotten kingdoms that were caught between these two great moments in history? What did it feel like to be an ordinary young soldier who loved, feared, and fought, and dreamt in a world whose story was never written down? So that question became the beginning of Shadow of the Serpent Fort. It is a story imagined between the pages of history, rooted in historical research, inspired by the past, but brought to life through fiction. So writing a novel set 2,000 years ago also meant researching difficult things and asking different unusual questions like, what did people wear in those times? What forms of public punishment existed? What did soldiers eat? And perhaps most importantly, what did their horses eat? Because there are scenes where I had to describe that and I had to really look for that information. But beyond the battles, the ghosts, and the adventure, I hope readers connect with something much deeper. Because history is not made only by emperors. It is also shaped by ordinary people whose courage rarely finds its way into history books. And that is why the hero of this story is not a king. He is not a prince, but he is simply a young soldier. Tonight is also a reminder that while writing may be a solitary act, publishing a book is never a solo journey. So my sincere thanks to my publisher, Mr. Vishal Soni, who couldn't be here because of the weather today, and everyone at Vishwakarma Publications for believing in this story and publishing it. And I'm deeply honored that our chief guest, Shanthi Priya Ji ma'am, is here to launch the book today. A celebrated actress whose work has captivated audience with her grace, talent, and memorable performance. Thank you so much for graciously being a part of this special evening. And my heartfelt thanks to our guest of honor, Sandip Soparrkar sir, one of India's most accomplished dancers, choreographers, and cultural ambassadors. Through his remarkable work, I think he has brought Indian culture on the global stage and is perfect, one of the inspirations for countless artists and audiences alike. Thank you so much for honoring us with your presence today. I also wanted to thank Dr. Sonali Pednekar, who advised me and consulted a little bit on the book. Unfortunately, because of the weather, she couldn't come. She lives on the Mulund part side, so the rains was really a hindrance for her. I finally want to thank my parents, who couldn't be here today again because of the weather. They live in Pune. But they are the ones who gave me the greatest gift any child can receive, a love of reading and encouraging me throughout my life. To my husband who's here, thank you for believing in me and supporting me. When I was writing my book, I was working full time and we have 2 children, but he's the one who supported me and so I could spare the time to write. To my children, one of whom is here, whose fascination with Greek mythology sparked the very first idea behind this novel. Thank you for inspiring this journey. Then I also want to especially thank my sister-in-law Chandrika and my brother-in-law Pradeep, standing there, who's here and helped me organize this event and have always supported me. And to my sister who's in the US, couldn't be here, my brothers-in-law, cousins, aunts, uncles, they have always supported me and encouraged me, so thank you very much for that. And finally, thank you all for being here in this weather especially, for believing in the stories that rooted in our history and deserve to be told and to hear those stories. I hope that when you read Shadow of the Serpent Fort, you enjoy the mystery, the adventure, and the haunting secrets of the Serpent Fort, and perhaps lose a little sleep, wondering what might be still hiding in its shadows. So thank you and enjoy the evening.
Good evening, everyone. Congratulations, Arti, for the debut novel. I can feel how a debut is, because when we are the first people to even come on screen or do anything first time, it's very nervous. So I can go through that, what you're going through that. So yeah, coming to the novel, when Arti has asked me that just go through the thing and read, a small synopsis, like I was discussing with my sons, I showed them this, and they immediately say, I don't know whether you're going or not, please get us the book. So this is what the book was inspiring them, and then I, very frankly, I'm not a book reader, but I always love to listen whatever others tell me, the stories, because I'm a very good listener. So I told, okay, tell me brief about the story. Mom, you will not understand. You get the book page by page, line by line, I will read and tell you. I will explain it. I said, okay, done, I'll do that. So yes, the power of your storyline and connecting with this generation where there's a lot of entertainment digitally and in movies, but book is always very important for us to have, because for reference and for any other reason, we need to have reading and books especially. And I would not like to take too much of time, and I cannot talk so much. I think I'll give it to Sandip. And all the best, Arti, once again, and many more seasons.
Sandip sir.
Good evening, everyone. Arti, congratulations for this book. Well, I think it's very nice to see upcoming authors, first time debut like this, because I think we all need to read different types of stories. Of course, we've had so many authors who have been doing brilliant work and they've been writing some amazing books. I'm very fond of reading books, especially when it's to do with mythology. And when I see new authors coming up, I think it speaks volumes about how people want to come up with their stories, say what they're saying. I also believe that this very beautiful shloka in Sanskrit which says, Nitya Sahitya Nitya Kala Vihin Sakshat Pashupuch Vishanaheen, which means a person without literature, dance, music, drama, any of these vidhai, we are like animals, and we don't want to be like animals. We should be more knowledgeable, and through these various art forms, be it, like I said, music, singing, dancing, literature, we can enhance ourselves and not be like animals. So thank you so much for not making us like animals with these lovely books that you have come up with. When she sent me the synopsis and I read that, I thought it was brilliantly put together. And let me tell you, not as a choreographer, but even as a person, I believe if you make a Netflix series out of it, it will do really well. And I think even a musical dance drama would be good. So you can give it a thought once a couple of months are over as to how you can take the book furthermore ahead. And like I said, a series, and maybe because I'm into dancing, that can also look interesting. I saw some images of what she has made her characters look like. And I think they look hot and sexy, and they will make great characters on television or for these series, and even a film maybe. So now that you're in Mumbai, spend some more time here, meet some good production houses, and we never know. A book comes up as a movie, which I think reaches further more audiences. And I do understand that the book reading now has not just with a book, but even to e-books and voice books, and there's so many more that's come up, and I wish you good luck. And I hope it comes in all the platforms, and we get to see more of your book. Thank you so much, everyone.
Fun round.
This we did not know about. It was your book launch.
I know. But since we have such esteemed guests, and a book is it's rooted in history, but it's truly an entertainment, right? Finally, a person wants to be entertained, so it's very relevant that we have two acclaimed artists here, and I would love to hear some of their thoughts on ancient India, but through a fun question and answer game. So we'll start with Shanthi Priya ma'am. If you could play a historical figure from ancient India, who would it be and why?
Being an actress.
Oh,
Being an actress, I cannot choose one because we always like to experience a lot of characters. But given a chance, then I would like to go with Rani Lakshmibai and Mother Teresa and Princess Diana.
now over to you, sir, I'll ask Kalina. So, if you were to choreograph something from ancient kingdoms, would it be a royal romance or an epic battlefield?
मेरा ये मानना है कला जो है वो जोड़ती है तोड़ती नहीं है. So I would go for anything to do with romance and never for a battlefield.
No, Shanthi Priya ma'am. If someone offered you a role in a historical epic or a contemporary drama, which one would you choose and why?
Historical. Yes. I love characters of historical and I like to dress up beautifully. So I would like to go with historical.
So definitely they dress up very well. We don't dress up even half as much as they used to.
Especially being a South Indian.
Sandeep sir, what ancient Indian art form or any ancient art form fascinates you the most?
Well, recently I was in Orissa and I saw this paintings of Navgunjara. I think they were absolutely brilliant. It is this animal. They say Vishnu Rupa, one of Vishnu Rups. He took this form of Navgunjara, 9 different animals and birds, and to show that as human beings, if we inculcate these qualities of these 9 different birds and animals, is when we become a wholesome human being. So I think Navgunjara was just brilliant.
That's amazing. I was not aware of this art form.
Oh, it's lovely. It is, if I get it right, the head is like a rooster, neck is like a peacock, hump like a bull, body of a lion, the left of leg like an elephant, back one like a tiger, the other side like a deer, and the tail like a serpent. So it kind of tells you different parts and the good qualities of each of these birds and animals, and therefore you become a wholesome human being. On the right hand, I'm being a Vishnu Rupa, he was holding a lotus. So if you have embodied all of this, hopefully you become a good human being.
That's amazing. Wow. Would you rather visit an ancient palace or a haunted fort? Shanthi Priya ma'am.
Palace, anything. I'm I'm sorry, I know your look is connected. But yeah.
Palaces can have ghosts too, but over to you, sir. So if you could perform before one historical ruler, who would it be and why?
Oh, definitely Queen Victoria, because I do ballroom dancing and I know that she was one of them who was extremely fond of ballroom dancing, and she's the one who popularized it even more. So if I get to perform in front of her, nothing like it. Maybe there.
Would you rather travel back to ancient India or 100 years into the future?
Ancient, Mahabharata. I would like to go to Mahabharata and see them personally, because we have always imagined that Krishna will look like this and that. So yes, go back.
That definitely looks like a movie in the making or something. Sandip sir, if you could time travel to one period of Indian history for just one day, where would you go?
Oh my God.
I would maybe go to the Rama Yuga, wanting to see the special, just one segment when Ragini Pariksha took place. So maybe I think, though I personally believe it wasn't right, but I want to see probably how it happened and what was the reactions of everyone.
That's such a different scene. I mean, when you think of Ramayana, you don't necessarily think of that as the same.
Yeah, because I think today I believe that if she had to give a pariksha, so should he would have given, but it didn't happen that way. So maybe I want to just see how it would have happened.
Definitely fascinating. I think that's all I have, but do you want to add
Thank you.
something?
Thank God.
We also had some great questions for Dr. Pendekar who couldn't be here, but
But we are not letting you go away so easily. We are going to request you to read a few excerpts from the book, your favorite ones. I'm sure it's difficult to choose, but whichever you've chosen as your favorite part of the book, if you can read parts of it.
so it was hard to choose a scene that from the book, because there is a big book and quite a few scenes. But this is a scene that I hope evokes thoughts in you and you want to read the book. So before I begin, let me set the scene. So as you saw, it's a historical adventure set just before the rise of the Mauryan Empire. Alexander Great has left India and his Greek governors still cling to power. In a little-known Western Indian kingdom of Mahashel, a beloved king has died and trusted ministers have turned traitors, conspiring with the Greeks to seize the throne. Malhar is a young warrior who has fled and taken refuge with a queen's loyalist noble family inside an old fort with a scary reputation. He is a practical warrior who believes in courage and the strength of his sword, not in ghosts. But the Serpent fort has other plans. Midnight struck, the somber gongs echoing through the ancient halls of the fort. The sound snapped Malhar out of his thoughts. With a sigh, he lay down in his bed. He prayed for sleep, but rest wouldn't come. A chill crept over him, subtle at first, like a draft slipping through an unseen crack. But the cold grew sharper, unnatural. Malhar's breath caught as the icy sensation only deepened. Then came the whisper, barely audible. It slithered through the silence like a serpent in the dark. Malhar froze, straining his ears. It came again, faint and distant, as though spoken in the next room. The oil lamp in his room flickered suddenly, the warm light dimming to a sickly orange glow. Malhar's heart hammered in his chest. Slowly, unwillingly, he opened his eyes. There, above the lamp, loomed the spectral figure of a man. The being was pale and translucent, its edges shimmering like heat waves on the horizon. Its hand hovered over the lamp, and Malhar could see a tiny flame through the ghostly palm. Then, with an eerie, deliberate slowness, the spectre blew across the lamp. The flame extinguished and darkness swallowed the room. Malhar shot upright in bed, his breath coming in shallow, rapid gasps. His back pressed hard against the stone wall. Is this going to happen every night? He wondered. The figure moved, gliding towards the door in an otherworldly silence. Its hand, pale and ethereal, lifted in a slow, deliberate gesture, beckoning Malhar to follow. He hesitated, his heart pounding in his ears. But then his legs moved as though they were not his own, carrying him off the bed and onto the cold marble floor. Barefoot he followed. They exited his room and passed through a passageway into a beautiful courtyard of the fort. It wasn't until they were outdoors that Malhar realized that he was using the spectre as a guiding light. It was so bright that he didn't need a lamp of his own. Malhar didn't feel fear, not exactly, but unease settled over him like a damp fog. He followed the floating figure to the Shiva temple in the fort's courtyard. The black granite temple had melted into the darkness of the night. But the Shiva Murti inside the sanctum, lit up from below oil lamps on both sides, could be seen from afar. The spirit pointed at the temple, like it wanted Malhar to take a closer look. Malhar obeyed and walked closer until he could see the figure of a man on his knees in front of the idol, weeping. The man's voice broke the silence. Hey Shiva, please forgive me. Please forgive me. Malhar edged closer, his curiosity mingling with dread. The man's words were filled with pain and anguish. Then, with shaking hands, the man drew a small blade and pressed it to his forearm. A crimson line appeared and drops of blood fell to the temple floor. Whatever had brought him here at this hour, whatever sin weighed on his soul, it must have been horrific, Malhar thought. Suddenly the man's weeping stopped and he stood up abruptly, the blade slipping from his grasp and clattering to the stone floor. Without a backward glance, the man turned and ran into the darkness, his movements erratic and wild. Malhar looked at the spectre, but the spectre had already moved, gliding away from the temple towards the western gate of the fort. Its silent urgency pulled at him, and he followed once more, his bare feet making no sound against the cold ground. The gate was locked for the night, but Malhar watched as the ghostly figure slid through the small slide door that was ajar. Malhar followed them in the side door. Outside the fort, the forest loomed dark and endless. Malhar kept his eyes on his phantom guide. Soon he saw the shape of a man walking, and beyond the man's silhouette loomed the crystal tower that was dedicated to Sardar Kirti Varma. It was erected on the exact location where Sardar Kirti Varma and his wife Meenakshi Devi were murdered. Malhar moved his gaze from the tower back at the man. His shape and movements were the same as the man praying at the Shiva temple. As Malhar got closer, he moved into the thick woods to stay out of view. Once they reached the crystal tower, Malhar heard the man mutter something incomprehensible. Then the man let out a heart-rending cry and fell on his face. Malhar stayed back in the woods before finally deciding he could wait no more to see who this man was. He threw caution to the wind and ran up close behind the man to see his face. But the man had a scarf on now, covering his face. He turned suddenly back towards Malhar, who threw himself onto the ground to hide. The man must not have seen him, because he walked right past Malhar and back towards the fort. Malhar lay there breathing hard until he could no longer hear the man's movement. When he finally stood, the spectre was barely visible, its glow fading as it moved swiftly back towards the fort. Malhar ran as he struggled to keep up. The figure moved faster and faster, gliding through the side door just before its lamp shut. Malhar slipped inside, breathless, his legs burning with the effort. He followed the spectre through the silent halls, the eerie glow guiding him back to his room. The moment he stepped inside, the figure vanished, dissolving into the darkness like mist. Malhar collapsed onto his bed, his body trembling, his mind a whirlwind of fear and confusion. Upon waking the next morning, Malhar tried to pull his legs out of the bed, but they made resistance and wouldn't come out. He threw back the blanket and saw that his feet were fused to the sheet by dried blood. He ripped the sheet away and saw the soles of his feet covered with cuts from running bare feet through the thorny bushes of the forest. A chill gripped him for a moment. So, it wasn't a dream, he thought aloud. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
How did you plan these names of these characters that you have in the book? And when you're planning a story, how do you kind of take it from one to the other to the other to the other?
So, I've been in the strategy and tech world for a long time, preparing presentation for executives, for launching big products. So I really had the same approach. I created a chapter outline. So I had a plot in mind. I knew it was going to be about a young soldier. There needs to be mystery in the fort, and he has to win against the villain. But how do then we pass it out? So I actually had a chapter outline there. I said, this chapter, this is going to happen, this chapter, this is going to happen. And then I started expanding on it, which is what my approach has been in all my corporate world experience as well. And apparently I also did a writer course, and that helped me as well. In terms of names, I have to say that actually that is very difficult, because names in that era were also short and also long. The thing is, with the modern novel, I don't want people to read in today's world, you need it to be readable. So I couldn't use that names that were very long. So I had to find names that were there that time, that could have been, I wanted to make sure it was era appropriate, but also pronounceable and not difficult to read, because this book is meant for a global audience. So Malhar was a name that could exist now and then. There are other characters like Rudra Verma, and Rudra is a name that can exist now. So what I did though is, their name is Malhar Ketu, Rudra Verma, Satyamitra, Lalita Gauri, but when I refer to them in the novel, I kept it as Lalita Malhar. I only mentioned it once, because you don't want it to be difficult to read, because I've realized that people, the attention spans are shorter, and it's just easier when names are. But I had to research a lot on whether these names, easy names, were possible in that era or not, because people were like, no, this is not the right name. It couldn't have existed. I said, no, Ishan is a name that has existed, or Malhar, since time immemorial. Actually, if you see Sanskrit research, if the research I did, they're very short names. Like my son's name, Aditya, my own son, that has existed forever, even though it's a short name. So, but it did take me a long time. That was one of the most difficult things.
Any questions from the audience?
Hello, thank you. My question is, how long did it take for you to finish research for the book before you started writing?
Yeah, so I started with the book plot in mind, like I was telling Sir, but I wanted to base it in a very interesting part, right? So I started my research, so I think first 2 years I did a lot of research, but then when I did change the story quite a bit in between, and then I had to rewrite everything. So my research really continued till now, especially for the names. I was doing it literally till March, April of this year. Because editing goes on and on. I mean, I was writing the manuscript. It literally goes through 7-8 editing rounds of many different types of editing. So the research was going on all the way till the end. Yeah. How do you want to take that mic?
Will you be doing the audio version? Because people don't have time to read. Listening you can do either, as you know.
Right, yeah.
It can carry on
Yeah.
and go.
Yes. That is the plan actually, to do an audiobook. So in a few months hopefully we'll see. Yes. Yeah. It should be faster now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good evening. In fact, this is a very reminiscent of what I did about 8 years back. Pradeep is a friend, he asked me, where could we have a good book launch? And I told him directly, it's exactly here, which I did for my first book. I've written 3 books there on Amazon, and there's a bigger venue upstairs when you have a bigger audience. Okay, I am, as an author, I'm not asking a technical question, but I'm asking something which, whether you have ever experienced. For example, I've written 3 books. Some of them are research, very research. And some of them have absolutely no research. I'm an author and a novelist, and I never write on the same subject matter. Have you ever experimented writing from pure imagination, creating the background, creating the characters, creating the events, and still being very contemporary? Or maybe you are writing historical novel, that it is completely credible. Because my books, the ones which I wrote with a lot of research and a lot of questions about certain things. But some of my books, they had nothing to do with research. It was all up here. And they told me these look to be totally researched. So I was having a dichotomy of views where very different things gelled with each other. So have you gone through this experience?
Yes, so I think you have to balance history and entertainment, right? Number one thing for me was the story itself, and it had to be entertaining. I'm a big, me and my whole family, our family is big movie buffs, and we watch Netflix shows and Amazon, everything till like 4 in the morning. We are those kind of people. So it had to be entertaining. So number one criteria was every chapter had to be so entertaining that you want to read the next chapter and what happened next. So that was the number one criteria for me. Rest of it, because I love history myself, came, I would say, later. So I think for me, the number one thing was it a good story? Is it entertaining? Will the reader want to read the next chapter? Because if it's not entertaining and if it's just research, you can read a history book. And I didn't want that. And then I interspersed history through it and made sure, like I think I said in my speech, that was it, like literally I had to, when Lalita, the heroine, enters the room, I wanted to describe the smell. And I didn't know what flowers existed. What was the perfume in 2300 years ago? The story is 2300 years ago. So I had to do research for that. So I would say the story drove the research. The research did not drove it. Because the story for a writer, a novelist, and there are different types. There's fiction, there's non-fiction. This is fiction, it has to be entertaining. So that was the number one thing. And the research came later. I said, what did Lalita wear? That was actually easier because from Mauryan era you have the statues that describe what they used to wear, but what was not very easy to research is the food, what were houses made of, how did people live, that public form of punishment, because there's a scene where there's a big chapter where the villain wants to punish the hero publicly, and they didn't do hanging that time. So like, what was the punishment? So I won't tell you because you should read the book for that. So research, the story drove the research is what I would say. And with the villain being the Greek person, then I really did a lot of research on that, because how did Greek soldiers dress? What was their army formation called? So that was research. But again, I know I'm repeating myself, but the story was number one, and the second was research to supplement all of the surroundings and the atmosphere and the story. They had to be right according to that.
Just to add to what she said about making it into an audio book, do you think it'll become a film? Because it looks very Jumanji-ish to me.
That is a dream, I must say, and again, we are big Netflix.
Since you said you're
Netflix, Amazon Prime.
And
I wanted it to be
drive
big.
you.
And I live in the US. We live in the US, and we see so many stories made from all ancient historical cultures by Disney and Warner Brothers, etc. Right? They're making Mulan, which was based in ancient China. And I'm like, why not? There has to be a story based in ancient
Something
India.
Indian, yeah.
So that really drove. So if you even read the book, you see every chapter is like a Netflix episode. I really wrote it that way. I hope it gets made, but we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Put it out there.
Yes, yeah. All for you.
All the best.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
डेब्यू है फर्स्ट नॉवल राइटर का एंड बहुत अच्छा लगा ये ओकेशन में मुझे इनवाइट करने के लिए एंड ऑल द बेस्ट एंड कंग्रेचुलेशंस एंड बुक पढ़ने के बाद थोड़ा सा सिनॉप्सिस बताया है उन्होंने बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है और ये जनरेशन के साथ जोड़ने के लिए बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट है और बुक पढ़ने के लिए एंड पूरा बुक पढ़ने के बाद मैं डेफिनेटली आई विल रिव्यू दैट
थैंक यू या
संदीप सर आपसे भी जानना चाहेंगे आपकी मैम को सपोर्ट करने के लिए आप भी आए तो आपने समरी भी पढ़ा है बुक का क्या कहना चाहेंगे जैसे कैसी बुक है
मैंने हिस्ट्री को इमेजिनेशन के साथ में मिक्स करके बुक प्रेजेंट की है आरती जी ने, आपको बहुत बहुत बधाई हो। मेरा तो ये मानना है इस बुक के संग कुछ ना कुछ नेटफ्लिक्स की सीरीज़ बननी चाहिए या फिर इसके डांस ड्रामा बनने चाहिए एंड आई होप ऐसा हो, बिकॉज जब किताबों को स्क्रीन पे उतारा जाता है तो वो और निखर के बाहर आती हैं। ऑलरेडी इनकी बुक इतनी सुंदर है, कैरेक्टर्स इतने सेक्सी एंड हॉट हैं कि इसका पक्का कुछ ना कुछ बने तो और अच्छा लगेगा। प्लस आप और सीरीज़ बनाने वाली हैं, ये पहली किताब है, इसकी और सीरीज़ बनेगी। सो अगर आप फॉलो करते हैं पढ़ना लिखना इस तरह से तो आप करते रहिए, बिकॉज दिस बुक इज़ गोइंग टू गो लॉन्ग वे।
सर जैसे देखा कि आप कई सारे बुक को अडॉप्ट करके उस पर एक ड्रामा भी बनाते हैं तो क्या हम आने वाले टाइम पे ये चीज़ें देख पाएंगे आरती मैम के साथ?
Well, definitely, Arti ji, your book definitely is worth a dance drama, and with a lot of music to it and all that, it will even be more interesting. And I think the best part is, जिस तरह से characters को present किया है, उनमें इतनी जान डाली है, इतने emotions डाले हैं कि जब उस मंच पे उतरेगा तो और भी अच्छा दिख सकता है। And I wish her all the very best. ऐसी किताब लिखना जहाँ पे आप दोनों का मिश्रण करें, अपने हिस्ट्री को साथ साथ इमेजिनेशन के साथ में, एंड लिटिल बिट ऑफ थ्रिलर है, हॉरर है, पूरा एक होलसम एंटरटेनमेंट है। सो आई एम श्योर यू विल लव दिस बुक एंड ऑल द वेरी बेस्ट।
थैंक यू सो मच।
आपसे जानना चाहेंगे कि कैसे बुक का थॉट आया है आपके माइंड में, किस तरह से इसकी शुरुआत होती है?
तो आवर होल फैमिली इज एंटरटेनमेंट में है, मतलब कंज्यूम करते हैं, देखते हैं। बट आई वॉज ऑलवेज अ रीडर। तो व्हेन माई बुक किड्स स्टार्टेड रीडिंग इन यूएस, दे वर रीडिंग ग्रीक माइथोलॉजी। तो मुझे बहुत डिसअपॉइंट हुआ कि इंडिया में भी बहुत अच्छी स्टोरीज जो मैंने पढ़ी थी, लेकिन वो स्टोरीज है ना, देर ऑल इन रामायण महाभारत एंड दे वंडरफुल एंड और अवर माइथोलॉजिकल गॉड्स, उनकी रीटेलिंग्स है। आई वांटेड न्यू कैरेक्टर्स, completely new characters, but still हिस्ट्री में रूटेड, जिसकी बैकग्राउंड रियल इतिहास हो। तो इसलिए मैंने लिखना शुरू कर दिया कोविड में और उनके लिए लिखना शुरू कर दिया एंड इन 8 months इट बिकेम दिस बिग बुक। और फिर मेरे कुछ फ्रेंड्स हैं जो पब्लिशिंग में यूएस में, उन्होंने वो पढ़ी एंड दे सेड इट हैज़ टू बी पब्लिश्ड, दिस इज़ अ स्टोरी दैट मस्ट बिकम अ बुक दैट अदर पीपल शुड रीड। तो ऐसे शुरुआत हुई उसकी।
तो अभी आने वाले टाइम पे आप कहाँ इस बुक को देख पाएंगे, अवेलेबल होगा जिससे रीडर्स इसको इजीली फाइंड कर?
हाँ, तो द बुक इज़ अवेलेबल ऑल ओवर इंडिया इन मेनी बिग बुक स्टोर्स, दिल्ली, चेन्नई, मुंबई, पुणे, हैदराबाद, बैंगलोर ऑल्सो, एंड ऑल्सो अमेजोन पे है इंडिया में, अमेजोन यूएस पे भी है एंड मेनी अदर कंट्रीज, बट अदर कंट्रीज वी हैवंट स्टार्टेड येट।
इसके नाम को लेके क्या होता है कि जो नाम हम पढ़ पा रहे हैं शायद आफ्टर सरपेंट को, तो व्हाट इज द लॉजिक?
हाँ, तो book has a lot of elements. One of the elements is the Serpent Fort, which is a character in itself, uh, and it plays such a big role because 2/3 of the story takes place in that fort. और उसके कुछ तो है उधर, right? So I wanted to make people to feel that right away, because आजकल attention span इतना कम है that people look at the book cover for 3 seconds apparently. So in 3 seconds, yes, you have to grab their attention. तो हाउ डू यू ग्रैब देयर अटेंशन, दैट दे हैव टू आल्सो नो कि किस बारे में है। तो उससे सोच के वो कवर लिखा, इट हैज़ टू बी अप्रोप्रिएट टू द स्टोरी बट आल्सो ग्रैब द अटेंशन। सो दैट वाज द थिंग, बट द होल स्टोरी इज नॉट अबाउट जस्ट the ghosts and all. The story is also about how he wins the battle with cunning, strategy against the Greek villain. So that is the later part of the story. So, but it's hard to put all of it on the book cover.
Right.
तो बुक कवर उस तरीके से पहले तो अटेंशन ग्रैब करना चाहिए लोगों का, राइट?
तो कुछ ऑडियंस को रीडर्स को कुछ कहना चाहिए कि क्यों बुक को पढ़े, क्यों वो खरीदे बुक?
या सो आई थिंक लाइक आई सेड, ये बुक अलग है। मैंने जब लिखना शुरू किया, आई हैव सम फ्रेंड्स इन द मीडिया, वो बोले हाँ आजकल बहुत बुक्स है, हिस्टोरिक फिक्शन वे इंडिया में. आई सेड यस है, बट एक तो नए कैरेक्टर्स बहुत कम है. देर ऑल mythology character that we already know, and they're great books. There's no doubt they're great books, but this is a book that is you can think of it as I don't even know. I don't know. Someone said something, but I don't want to mention like a name that's famous, but say something like a Robin Hood or a Lord of the Rings, but based in India. So it's that kind of a story, and there are no stories like that that I can see right now. I think most stories don't have new characters. So this is the first time you will see an epic adventure with brand new characters that are still historically accurate. I've really gone to the details कि एकदम history में accurate, कुछ wrong नहीं करे. You know, like I don't want people to find a fault in it.
I would also like to add that some books ऐसी होती हैं जहाँ पे रोमांस होता है, कहीं पे आपको हॉरर मिलता है, थ्रिलर मिलता है, अलग अलग जॉनर्स मिलते हैं. आई थिंक इस बुक में खासियत ये बात है कि इसमें आपको एक सब कुछ फुल एंटरटेनमेंट जैसे होता है वो आपको मिलेगा, एंड इट विल टेक यू थ्रू वेरियस एराज ऑफ द हिस्ट्री एंड विद सम स्टोरीज टू इट. तो आपको सारे जो एसेंस मिलते हैं एज अ स्टोरी, एंजॉयिंग अ स्टोरी लाइन, यू विल फाइंड इन दिस बुक, सो यू मस्ट रीड इट.
मैं ये ऐड करना चाहती हूँ, ये बुक में एक्चुअली हिस्टोरिकल होके अलेक्जेंडर का इस ज़माने का टाइम का है, बट उसमें भी एक इंडियन कैरेक्टर उन्होंने मलार करके इंट्रोड्यूस किया है. तो उनके बारे में सब बताना कैसा वो हैंडल कर रहे हैं ये कैरेक्टर. सो श्योरली देखना चाहिए, बिकॉज जो भी बुक्स हिस्टोरिकल आता है हम लोग को सब पता है, अलेक्जेंडर हो, XYZ हो, एम्पर ये है, बट ये जब इंडियन के साथ उस टाइम का पीरियड में जा रहे हैं तो ज़रूर पढ़ना चाहिए.
Thank you so much. नहीं, I think I loved what sir said क्योंकि सारे उसमें जो नौ रस बोलते हैं ना, entertainment के 9 रस होते हैं, वो सब है उसमें. So thank you for bringing that point. Thank you so much.
Thank you.